Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about the lack of interest that the Texans have in drafting a quarterback. Despite the fact that the Texans are in desperate need of a franchise quarterback, they are considering the option of going with an edge rusher with the second overall pick instead of finding their quarterback of the future. The Texans QB room currently consists of Davis Mills, Case Keenum, and EJ Perry. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. What is your reaction to the Texans not being interested in a quarterback? And honestly, when I look at this situation, it is absolutely ridiculous. The Houston Texans probably have the worst quarterback room in the National Football League. If they don't have the worst quarterback room in the National Football League, they are certainly up there in terms of poor QB play, and they desperately need star power at the quarterback position. The Houston Texans have struggled to sell tickets the last 3 years out there. The Houston Texans have not done a good job in terms of getting their fan interest going up, and passing up on a quarterback is not going to help matters in the situation. Will Anderson, he's a good player. He's going to be a very good edge rusher. I think he can be a future Pro Bowler. He might even be a future Hall of Famer. I'm high on Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson is going to be a fantastic player in the National Football League. He might even win Defensive Rookie of the Year. But taking Will Anderson instead of a quarterback, that is absolutely ludicrous for the Houston Texans to even be considering. The Houston Texans need star power at the quarterback position in the worst way possible. Case Keenum is not going to get the job done as a starting quarterback. Case Keenum hasn't even been a starter in the National Football League since 2019, and that was when he was basically a spot starter for Dwayne Haskins, now deceased, RIP to Dwayne Haskins. But Case Keenum hasn't really been a full-time NFL quarterback since 2018. He hasn't started in a long time. The last time that he was a good quarterback was in 2017. Here's the alternative though. Last year's starter, Davis Mills, he's currently projected to be the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans this year. And if the Houston Texans roll out Davis Mills again, I think the Houston Texans are going to go ahead and lose it. Fans in Houston are going to riot if they haven't already started in there. Davis Mills has only won 5 games in 2 years as a starting quarterback, which is really bad when you think about it. 5 games in 2 years, that averages out to 2.5 wins per year. And in a 17-game NFL schedule, if you're winning only 2.5 games as an NFL starting quarterback, that means that you are losing a lot of games in the National Football League. I understand that Davis Mills plays on a bad team, but shoot, if you're that guy, you got to find a way to at least look like a superstar in the making. I mean, look, DeShaun Watson, he was a great quarterback for the Houston Texans. I'm not going to say he was this elite passer out there that was like this top 5, top 3 passer out there, but at least DeShaun Watson made the Houston Texans relevant. Under Davis Mills' watch, though, as a quarterback, though, the Houston Texans have not been competitive in a lot of games. And one of the rare wins that Davis Mills had as a starting quarterback, that costed the Houston Texans the #1 overall pick. So Davis Mills doesn't even know how to lose the right way. When you look at this Houston Texans quarterback room, it is ugly. Davis Mills does not inspire anybody out there on the football field. Case Keenum, he was a good quarterback for like 1 year. That was many years ago, but he's not good now. And then they got EJ Perry, who, by the way, should be nothing more than a camp arm. So if the Houston Texans are passing up on Bryce Young, on CJ Stroud, on Will Levis, on Hendon Hooker, on Anthony Richardson, they have got to be kidding themselves, because they need a quarterback more than any other team in the National Football League. Heck, they need a quarterback more than the Carolina Panthers do. And the Carolina Panthers are the ones that are picking first, and they are the same team that gave up 4 draft picks and their #1 wide receiver so they can go ahead and get their quarterback of the future. The Houston Texans need that player more than the Carolina Panthers need him. And the Houston Texans, if they're talking about picking Will Anderson, that has to make the Houston Texans look very dysfunctional in what they do. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to build a winning organization. They don't know how to win the draft whatsoever. And this was the problem that I had with them last year as well. You look at their 2 first-rounders last year. They picked Derek Stingley Jr. with the 3rd overall pick, which was just absolutely insane to me. Look, Derek Stingley, I think he can be a fine player in the National Football League. I think that Derek Stingley could definitely play. But how could they take a corner when they had so many other needs on their team? And more importantly, how could they take the corner that wasn't even the best corner in his draft class? I said it at the time. I said that Sauce Sauce Gardner would be a far better player than Derek Stingley. And so far, I've been proven to be correct with that because Sauce Gardner is on a trajectory to be a future Hall of Fame player. That's how good Sauce Gardner is. Sauce Gardner is already the best corner in the league, and he's only year one. Derek Stingley, he might turn out to be a fine player, but he's not going to be anything special. He's certainly not top 3 pick special. The other player that the Houston Texans used for their first round pick last year was on Kenyon Green, who was a project offensive lineman that they took with the 12th overall pick or something like that. The point is the Houston Texans did not make good use of their first round picks last year, and I don't expect anything to be different this year. The Houston Texans have shown no sign of getting better anytime soon, and if they're thinking that Will Anderson is going to change life for the Houston Texans, I'm afraid that they're going to be mistaken. But here's the thing too, the Houston Texans are talking about taking Tyree Wilson. Yes, you guys heard me correctly. They're planning on taking Tyree Wilson with the number 2 overall pick, which is just absolutely insane to me. Tyree Wilson might not even be a top 5 prospect in this draft class, and the Houston Texans are talking about taking him with the number 2 overall pick. Talk about making a reach at that position. The Houston Texans are trying to get an edge rusher and trying to believe that getting an edge rusher is going to make the Houston Texans a much better football team in the long term, but that's not how this is going to work. Look, this is the same team that had J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney on the same team, and they still couldn't even get that team to an AFC Championship game, even though those two were excellent pass rushers for the Houston Texans. This was also when they had DeAndre Hopkins as well. This was also when they had DeShaun Watson playing quarterback for the Houston Texans. Speaking of DeShaun Watson, I'm hearing that they're going to be passing on CJ Stroud because he shares the same agent as DeShaun Watson, and if that's the case, then the Houston Texans are not doing their due diligence. You take the best player and the biggest positional need that you have on your team, regardless of who the agent is. If you're passing up on a quarterback because of an agent, you've got problems. Then again, this is the same organization that tried to sabotage Deshaun Watson's career. Sure, Deshaun Watson might not have done the right thing in terms of what he did with those women, but shoot, you don't think the Houston Texans tried to set him up in some of those situations? I'm sorry, man. I just had to keep the truth the truth. And the reality of the situation is the Houston Texans do not care about winning whatsoever. If they pass on CJ Stroud so they can go ahead and take Will Anderson, they are going to regret that. If they're going to pass on CJ Stroud so they can go pick Tyree Wilson, that's going to be even worse for them. And the pass up on guys like CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis even. Look, I'm not saying Will Levis is number 2 pick overall material. He's certainly not. But Will Levis would be a better pick for them than it would be to take an edge rusher. The Houston Texans don't need an edge rusher. They need a franchise quarterback that's going to sell tickets. You want to know why the Houston Texans don't have any fans whatsoever outside the Houston area in general? It's because of stuff like this. You got to take a marquee player and a transcendent player at that position. Getting CJ Stroud in the draft is going to sell tickets. Getting Anthony Richardson is going to sell tickets. Heck, even getting Will Levis might make the Houston Texans interesting from an outsider's viewpoint. That might make them want to go to the games. Sure, those guys might not be good, but they're better than Davis Mills. They're better than Case Keenum. They're better than EJ Perry. They're better than whatever the Houston Texans have had the last 2 years at the quarterback position. And here's the thing too, if the Houston Texans pass up on a quarterback, if Bryce Young is somehow available with the number 2 overall pick, the Houston Texans are going to be kicking themselves in the butt, because how could you do that? If the Houston Texans have Bryce Young available at the number 2 overall pick, they got to go ahead and take him ASAP. Look, am I saying that Bryce Young's going to be a superstar in the National Football League? No, I don't even think Bryce Young is that good of a quarterback. But what I do think about Bryce Young is that he could make the Houston Texans competitive. And for the Houston Texans, they are a long ways from being competitive. Taking an edge rusher is not going to make the Houston Texans competitive. They need to get a franchise quarterback now. For them to pass up on a quarterback in this year's draft, that would be beyond foolish of the Houston Texans to do. Passing up on a quarterback in this year's draft is basically saying we're tanking all of 2023 and we're praying that we're going to go ahead and get Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick in 2024. Now, if I'm Caleb Williams, I go ahead and request a trade. If that's the case, I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want to play for the Houston Texans. Let me go ahead and pull an Eli Manning. And for those of you that don't know what the Eli Manning situation was, it was when the Chargers tried to draft Eli Manning, and Eli Manning said, no, I don't want to play for the Chargers. I want to go ahead and play for the Giants. If I'm Caleb Williams, I'm going to go ahead and do that if the Houston Texans try to pull that crap on me. Look, Houston, the decision is simple. Draft a quarterback, preferably draft CJ Stroud, because CJ Stroud is going to be a star in the National Football League. He's going to be a good quarterback. Good quarterbacks do not fall on trees, so that means if you're the Houston Texans, you got to do the smart thing and take a quarterback when you can. That means that CJ Stroud has got to be the quarterback for the Houston Texans. They've got to take him with the number 2 overall pick. However, I'm afraid that they will not end up doing that. They're going to end up reaching and taking Will Anderson, or even worse, they might even take Tyree Wilson. The Houston Texans, there's a reason why they have not won a lot of games in recent memory. There's a reason why they got beef with their former star quarterback in DeShaun Watson. There's a reason why they drove the greatest coach in Texans history out of town in Bill O'Brien. I'm not saying Bill O'Brien was a good head coach, but come on, Bill O'Brien's been a lot better than whatever the Texans have had in recent years. The Houston Texans don't know how to build a winning organization whatsoever, and this is the reason why, because they don't know how to draft well, they don't know how to sign guys well, and they set up coaches to fail. That's how I'm going to look at it with the Houston Texans. That's why the Houston Texans, they are very dysfunctional at what they do. They don't know what they're doing whatsoever. They don't got guys that believe that winning is the main goal. They believe that exercising their power is the main goal, and although that could be a good thing at times, what they're doing in recent seasons has indicated that they should stop doing that. They need to fire Nick Caserio. If they go ahead and pick an edge rusher with the number 2 overall pick, and they need to go ahead and get themselves a franchise quarterback, they can't wait on it. So that is why it is absolutely ridiculous that the Texans are not interested in taking a quarterback. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.